You're tuned into NAC Car Culture, your home of tough muscle cars, classic cruisers and high-performance imports. Proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. And Teng Tools, get organised. Coming up in this episode, Luke Orkwood's Grim, a blacked-out, bagged and just plain badass Chev Impala sporting a numbers-matching 348.
Once you get one nice part, you've got to get a next nice part. Got bigger and bigger.
We meet the crew handcrafting hot rods at Big Shed Customs in Blenheim.
A lot of people tell me I'm wired differently.
And more stopping tech from the team at Race Brakes. First up though, it's time to make our way to Rangiora's Canny Customs, Canterbury's go-to shop for show-spec body and paint. When the guys heard we were heading their way, they decided it was a perfect excuse to put on a spring workshop meet, drag some local cars out of their winter hibernation and show off a few past and present builds. Who were we to argue?
Today will be just a couple of close people that I know and a couple others just get together and we just sort of hang out and yeah, everyone gets to look over people's cars and see what everyone's been building over winter.
I definitely came 100% to support Blake and Mike. They're great guys and they do cool work and I really hope they get recognition for it.
You have a chance to talk and catch up with people that you don't see that often because you're too busy in your shed building your car, so it's good to get out.
Canny Customs opened their doors a year ago now, and a steady flow of quality show and street cars have rolled out of them since. These two Sylvias are Blake's own cars. The matte black S14 is there to jump in and thrash, while the white S15 has loftier show ambitions and, all going well, will have just made its debut at the 4 & Rotor South Island Champs as you're watching this. The coupe sports a 326 power kit from Japan and sits on a set of 18-inch Workmeisters with a heap of camber going on.
I don't like making two cars look the same, so I like to make everything different. Yeah, when someone comes to me with ideas, we sort of bounce ideas off each other and yeah, we'll try and make a one-off style. Just make it unique to that person. I like fitting kits and painting crazy colours, so I enjoy making people's cars perfect, so it won't leave here unless it's the best.
The meet was dominated by Nissans, both in show and go form, but there were exceptions, even if they might have been closet Nissans.
Well, it was kind of my old man's fault. He told me that I wasn't allowed a Sylvia or a Skyline, so I went looking for the next best thing with an RV. And eventually I brought this car off him. It's a 1988 VL Commodore Calais mock-up. I've had it for roughly just about 10 years. VLs were the only car to come out with the factory single cam turbo 3-litre engine. It was a weird production that Holden managed to get out of Nissan. Nissan in that contract wasn't allowed to put it into any of their cars. I'd go places and there's so many old people come up and just so happy about how it looks and tell me about how they used to have one and how they wish they still had it, and I don't think I'll ever let this car go.
One of the more understated cars was Jason's S13.
It's got an SR20 in it, just factory turbo one. Imported it from Japan myself. It was actually pretty good, had just light mods, but it was, structurally very sound. I wanted one with no rust in that, so hard to find one that hasn't sort of been drifted and, mucked with too much. So, yeah, I've got quite a few cars, but I've always liked the S13, so I like the look of them, so I don't want to do the wide body thing and that, just wanted to keep it clean and sort of factory looking, so.
It wasn't all Nissan though, and Mazda's rotary stable had some strong representation, including Elise's FD RX-7.
It's a dream car for me. I've wanted one since I was about 7 years old, so yeah, I got one finally. It took me about 4 or 5 months to pick the right one, and in all honesty it was an absolute heap when I got it. And just make it into what I want it to be. I remember watching Fast and Furious when I was younger and seeing the Veilside RX-7, and that's when I fell in love with them. Yeah, it's slowly getting there. I've got my wide body. It's the closest to the Rocket Bunny kit that I'll get, so yeah. It's still the stock standard motor at the moment. Like every rotary person, waiting for it to blow up. And there, yeah, I'd like to do like a big single turbo, just make it angry.
Manufacturing marks aside, one car making its debut was out to prove that one of these things is not like the others.
It's my pick of the old schools, and it's not your standard DX Corolla, it's not anything, you don't see many of them around, and originality is more why I like them as well. They just look like a little lunchbox on wheels. Basically we want to use it as a time attack car, circuit-based car, so there's a lot of people that are tied up with the drifting scene that believe I'm building a drift car, and I'm an avid person with my racing history, and I like circuit racing. Like, you've got to get around that track, you've got to be consistent, you've got to be fast. So that's hence why I'm going for the time attack sort of thing. It's more my thing. Like, I mean, it's going to be fun if you go out there and want to do a few drifts here and there, but predominantly, yeah, speed and grip is what I'm aiming for. First of all, we decided we're going to do a 4G63T conversion. So a motor out of an Evo 3, chuck that in, and then from there we obviously opted for, we wanted adjustable suspension in the rear, so we got some strut towers put in the back. Front suspension wise, we're running adjustable lower control arms. The adjustable suspension is HK's Hypermax 3s out of a version 10 WRX. So it's a bit of a crossbreed. Went with a roll cage as well. We definitely wanted a full roll cage through the strut tower, just for the mere fact it's more predominantly a track car than it is going to be a street car. But hopes and dreams are to have it on the street at some point in my life, so definitely not your church Sunday driver.
And although a couple of cars seem to develop some form of traction issue when attempting to leave the car park, the relaxed weekend turnout and impressive standard of machinery on show clearly illustrates the strength of the Canterbury import scene. A scene, we're told, is going through something of a resurgence.
Down here with a group of people with the nice cars and the ones that actually spend all their time in the shed, it's good. Like, the cars are always flawless, everyone's always happy, and it's good vibes everywhere.
I feel like it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger every year. I went to Forza Motors last year in Nelson, and so many of the Christchurch boys and girls were there. It's just growing immensely.
It sort of died off for a while just because of the no cruising zone in Christchurch for a while. That sort of killed the scene for a bit, but yeah, it's slowly getting back up there. People are taking more pride in their cars, so it's good.
And thanks to Blake and Canny Customs for putting on a show for us. Time now for this week's NAC Tech Tip. This one is courtesy of the boys at Auckland's Race Brakes.
Brake pads are a crucial part of the system. It's the bit that transfers the pressure that you put on with your foot on your brake pedal to the disc rotor, and is the bit that actually slows you down. Generally speaking, a road-going disc pad under most applications will be absolutely fine for most people. A road-going compound is designed to be relatively clean and quiet. A race-going compound, that theory gets chucked out the door, and it's all about stopping power and the temperature handling. So they can be quite prone for making a lot of noise. So for street cars that you're going to take out on the track, even if it's only once a year, you want to be above a normal road-going pad and get into a range like these. Now, these are still quite quiet. They work from cold, but can handle high temperatures that you're chucking at it on the track. We also do a process known as rebonding brake pads. This is where we get an old backing plate from your vehicle. We remove the material that is on it, that's your road-going compound, and we rebond it with a compound known as Mintex Racing M1166. Under the current low-volume certification, the brake test is a repeated amount of stops from 100 Ks in a short period of time. Most of these road-going compounds cannot handle that sustained temperature. So that is why we rebond a lot of road-going brake pads with M1166. Now, what that gives you is a high temperature handling with still all the drivability of a road-going pad, but it won't be out-braked in a normal application. Obviously, braking is a very crucial part of any car. So if you need advice, feel free to give us a call and we'll see how we can help you.
Still to come on NAC Car Culture, Luke's blacked out and bagged Chev Impala. and handcrafted hot rods at Big Shed Customs. You're back with NAC Car Culture, kindly brought to you by the good people at NAC Insurance, Teng Tools and Mount Shop. Time now to check out this week's Mount Shop feature car, Luke Orpwood's black and bagged Grimm 60 Impala, a factory 348 Chev that Luke uncovered while working in the US.
I was over there doing the harvest season, and we came across the car in Dalhart, Texas, and I'd been sitting in the shed for about 25, 30 years and hadn't been going. It was covered in dirt, it was covered in dust, the carburetor was chockers. There was a bit of work ahead of us. The car was going to be just an average car, throw the kids in, throw the dog in and go cruising, but one weekend we got carried away, tidying it up, stripping it back and pulling it apart and stuff like that, and it just snowballed from there. Once you get one nice part, you've got to get a next nice part, and so it's just got bigger and bigger. It's a factory 348, factory black car, so why not go the whole hog on it? The car bug for me has been since birth, really, because the old man, he's always been in the car scene, hot rods mostly. We've always had big tanks to little coupes and stuff like that, so it's in our blood. We are hot rod people, so it's inevitable, really. And my boys are going to be the same. They're going to be car crazy. My youngest son, Cooper, he's car mad. Every time I start the car, he's got to be in it and got to come out the garage of it. Even if I'm just taking it outside to give it a dust off, he's got to drive out. It's been a lifelong passion for our whole family, so it's been awesome.
The big coupe was shipped back to New Zealand, and it wasn't long before a build was underway that would span 9 years. The Chev was stripped back to bare steel, and a pile of upgrades were planned to bring the GM's manners into the 21st century. But that factory motor wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, well, when I found the car, I didn't realise what the motor was. I'd never really seen one before. And so I rang the old man and said, it's got this random engine and I'll take some photos and I'll send them to you. And he was like, that's a 348. That's a car that you really want to get because they are pretty rare. They only made the motor from 58 to 60, late 61, and then they went to the 409. So yeah, it was pretty special to find a factory 348 black car. You know, they are pretty rare. It's got Ross Forge 10-to-1 pistons in it. It's got Doug's tri-wire headers, tri-power, SE cam, Muncie 4-speed in it because it was a factory 3-speed on the tree. Got disc brakes, 13-inch standard type disc brake for it, 2-inch drop spindles, AccuAir VU4 valve block for the airbags, shock waves in the front, and tubular A-arms, Hotchkiss sway bars. Everything's just been tinkered with. All the nuts and bolts have all been either changed or recoated with nickel coating and stuff like that. So it's all back to pretty much factory, but modified.
Following the factory and then some build ethic, a set of big diameter shiny feet were considered briefly, but ultimately made way for the NASCAR-style Steelies, which do wonders for the long and low Chev's sinister appearance.
Going with the style of the car it is, it's nice and low. They called it Grimm, and the Grimm doesn't roll around in pretty little shoes and stuff like that, so I thought the NASCAR rims was more fitting for his stance, you know. Low, mean and angry.
And those shoes have had plenty of miles put on them. Not content just to stick to the local shows like Rangiora's Muscle Car Madness, Luke has pedalled the Impala up north for speed show and beach hop.
I love driving it and I love getting out and amongst it. The undercarriage isn't shiny like most show cars. It's a practical undersealed car with a powder-coated chassis, so it's practical for driving, you know. It's not super shiny that I have to worry about it. Don't worry about stone chips underneath. Worry about the stone chips on top, but not underneath. Having it for 12 years, and sitting in the garage for probably 9 of them, not doing a lot, is taking its toll. Many a times I thought about selling it to pay some of the mortgage off on the house and stuff like that, but I'm stoked to have kept it through all this time, and my wife is very understanding, and my kids just absolutely love the car, and every time I start it up they just want to go for a ride, so that's the thrill for me, and getting out and having a good time in the car and thrashing it around.
Want to see more cars in action like this? Jump onto themotorhood.com now and sign up for our totally free digital magazine. It's packed with the best bits from New Zealand Performance Car, NZV8 and New Zealand Classic Car magazines. Simply enter your email address and you'll get it direct to your inbox. Easy. Moving right along, thanks to our mates at Ting Tools, it's time to head for Blenheim to check out Mark Stead's Big Shed Customs.
Well, here we are at Big Shed Customs, 39 School Road in Blenheim. And what we do is we create custom vehicles, make custom cars. We do a little bit of restoration, not a whole lot. It's more sort of little modifications, etc. And they're usually big jobs, you know. We're always up for a challenge, eh? Challenge is good, gets you thinking, gets the grey matter working a bit, yeah, you know. And unlike restoration, you loosen up, let the mind loose and make something, you know, create something, and it's good. A lot of these cars, they come in here just a pile that's been sitting under a tree or, you know, out the back in the shed for the last however many years, you know. Bit of work on them, you know, a little bit of sweat and a bit of swearing and a bit of laughter. And you end up with something like that, you know, and the smile on the guys' faces, you know, when they first go for a drive, absolutely incredible, you know. We've had a couple of guys that have had tears coming out their eyes when they've come and picked their cars up. And what a feeling, man, you know, and you're part of it. And they're not only a client, they become a friend, you know, because you've been working with them over the last couple of years. It's great. The reward is huge, it's enormous, eh?
And the payoff doesn't just come with client projects. One of Big Shed's own creations, this handcrafted cab-over engine, or COE for short, has just returned from a year in the US. The truck runs a fuel-injected 302 Ford backed up by a 4-speed trans and picked up a ton of attention as well as trophies. One thing's for sure, Big Shed builds certainly stand out.
They can certainly spot the green truck a mile away. I'd like to think so, you know, but then you don't want to become too themed either, you know, you sort of still want to be free, if you know what I mean, and keep being creative and trying to move on and make the next one better than the last.
One of the more recent builds is this 48 Chevy pickup. Not one panel has escaped modification, and no less than 5 sheets of panel steel have found their way onto the truck. The roof was relieved of 3 inches. A Subaru WRX donated its headlights to the cause, while Ford Focus lower bumper lights are repurposed on the Chev's rear guards. 2-inch drop spindles and a set of coilovers set the stance, and an injected Commodore 5-litre now calls the 48 home, complete with its matching trans and diff. Splicing in components from other automotive sources means a degree of flexibility is required throughout the construction process.
Things morph, really. So if you tend to have a set plan, it'll change anyway. So you sort of still got to be open to changes, because you'll do something to a car and think, gee man, that looks awesome. But then the next bit doesn't quite go with the previous, so you might need to modify that a little bit. So it's sort of, I personally think it's a little bit of a running theme, if you like. It's forever moving and forever morphing into the end result.
And creating original cars means embracing an out-of-the-box approach.
Oh, a lot of people tell me I'm wired differently. I don't know, really. I can't draw a picture. I couldn't draw to save my life if I had to, you know. But I can see how things flow and come together, and that's really what I work towards. Really, is making it. If you can make it flow, make it look like it's moving when it's sitting still, then I think you've got to be onto a winner, you know. And it's just trying to do that and keep it looking as though it's moving forward. I'd like for everyone to drive the wheels off them, you know. That to me is part of why we do it. I know from my personal point of view, wherever we go, if we're going for a weekend, we'll take the green truck, you know, because it's cool to drive, you know, it's rewarding. It's a reward of what we've done, and you know, it's like these other vehicles here, you know, the people have put a lot of sweat and tears and hard work and to be able to afford to do it, you know, and gone without or whatever the case. To see it sitting in a shed, you know, would be a bit of a shame, really, you know. Get in and get the wheels turning, eh? Yeah, it's got to be a good thing.
Turning a hobby into a business has plenty of its own rewards in itself, but for Mark, being part of the realisation of people's dream cars is where the real satisfaction kicks in.
It's enjoyable, you know, and you see that they're really proud of what they've got. You know, they're a car, but they're also a big part of that person's life. They're always cleaning it and keeping it clean, and that's my car, you know, and look at what I've got, you know, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it is. It's quite a humbling moment, eh? Yeah.
For your chance to win a Teng Tools Top Toolbox worth $359, simply head over to themotorhood.com. We'll be giving away one every week for 10 weeks. As an extra bonus, you will also receive a 7-piece screwdriver set to help you on your way to build your own toolkit. Get organised with Teng Tools. That's us for this episode of NAC Car Culture. Coming up next week, round 1 of Central Muscle Cars from the Hampton Downs 101.
You go down the back straight there and the bonnet looks like it's going to fly off the car, you know.
Like they're basically overpowered and under-tired. Yeah, fun cars to drive.
Zen buys a daily driver and resists modifying it for an entire 2 weeks. And we barge into VID Drift's workshop as they put in the big hours before the D1NZ season kicks off.
Hopefully there's no gremlins. You never know with these things. Who knows how much sleep we're going to have.
NAC Car Culture was proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars, Mount Shop, undercar specialists, and Teng Tools. Get organised.